Hi, everybody. We are here with a brand new year, and things are going to be a little bit different this year. I have been collaborating with a number of different people, and I hope you're excited about this. We did put something in the survey talking about what changes we'd be making this year, and I hope you're as excited about the things that we've come up with for you this year. If you have suggestions, you can always contact us and let us know. But I've got somebody for you today who's going to kick off the brand new year. She's been a long time journal maker and has her own Etsy store where she sells journals and has her own YouTube channel. So let me introduce our guest for today. Let me bring this up. Hello, Vickie.
Hello, Peg.
How are you, my friend?
I'm just so tickled.
I'm so glad you're joining me today. Vickie is going to talk to us about journal making because I thought it would be fun if we started off January with making your own journal. Now, you don't have to make your own journal if you've got other plans, but it would be fun to have a journal that you work in each month throughout the year so that at the end of the year, you've got a finished journal and you can flip through it and say, this is what I did for Art Joy Sharing. So take it away, Vickie.
Okay. We're going to start with something very basic. And I tried to put together something where we didn't spend any money because, you just spent money on Christmas and it's January and everybody's in debt.
Right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do a very basic journal where I can't find the stuff. We're going to do a very basic journal. Let me switch my view to my down below there. Right, so I wanted to start the year off with a project that cost it for the most part. For some people, you won't have all the little pieces to it, but the beginning stuff you probably have. I don't like Triscuits, but my husband does. So I got lucky and he finished off a box the other day and we're good to go. So to prepare for this, I took the Triscuit box and I cut it in 3 pieces. And the reason I cut it in 3 pieces is because I want the book to open up flat. If you just keep it intact like this and you do your signatures in here, sometimes it doesn't open flat, so that if you want to use a double page spread, you can. But if you don't open it all the way, sometimes you don't get that benefit. So I'm going to make this open completely flat so that you can do the double spread on the in the journal.
Awesome. I love that.
So, yeah, I know. And see, I didn't used to do them like that. I used to do the 3-hole pamphlet stitch with the intact piece. And then I discovered that I didn't like it. So yeah. Then I started doing Coptic stitch, and I really love doing Coptic stitch, but I didn't want to start everybody off with trying to learn the Coptic stitch because it took me 4 or 5 journals before I finally got the hang of it. And I still have to go back sometimes to look to see how to attach the cover. I don't know. I forget.
Yeah.
I just forget.
Thank you for not starting me out with something like that.
Yeah. It took me a couple years to work my courage up to do the Coptic stitch. It just seems so scary. 3-hole pamphlet's very, very easy to do. All right. So I don't want to use the Triscuit side. I don't want to leave it open, although you could, but I cover my stuff up.
Well, and you could just paint it out or do whatever you wanted to, right?
You can put gesso all over it and go to town.
Yeah.
I have made some where I did leave like this, but because I have so many jelly prints, I have to cover it because I have a lot of jelly prints. All right, so let's see. First thing is, I tried to keep the journal where I could do a half a piece of 8.5 by 11, but it didn't quite work out that way. I didn't have any extra boxes that were tall enough to do that. Usually I will use a Bisquick box and cut it down, but I didn't have any that were that tall. So in order to do this, I have a piece of jelly print on, what do you call that? That paper that painters use for not spilling paint on the floor is it's painter paper.
Masking paper.
Yeah, it's very thin brown paper. And I color blocked on one side because I was cleaning off my jelly plate one day, and then I was fooling around again another day, and I don't care, none of this matches, doesn't matter. So in order to do this, you need to take your 3 pieces, find yourself some paper you really like. All right. The next thing is, in order for this to open and close nicely, you need space in between the covers and the spine. So this is what I saw someone do this, and I thought, oh, what a clever idea. These are spacers, and I made them out of chipboard that was left over from another project, and I did cut these to where they're a 1/2 inch apart. All right. So I'm going to stick these. Yeah, well, wasn't my idea. I wished it was, but it wasn't. I thought it was so clever. I'd never done that before. I just kind of eyeballed it. Who needs to eyeball it when you can do it like this? So I just put.
Well, my eyeballs are not always straight and square, so.
Oh Lord, like this thing is not. This thing is not cut completely, and I don't really care because it's going to bend and fold. All right. So what I do is, because I'm so inept at making things completely straight, is I'm just going to scooch it up with the. Well, maybe not. That didn't go well. I want to make sure the bottom is all the same. Although I suppose it doesn't have to be because the spacers are not staying. But they're staying long enough. So in order to not jig everything around, I'm taking myself some painter's tape and I'm going to tape it. Well, maybe I should do it on my shirt so it doesn't rip my paper. I'm going to put it on here.
Another brilliant idea.
Again, not my idea. I don't think I have any original ideas in here, just to let people know I've stolen it from everybody. All right, so we're going to put that there. And I'm going to take this out and that out. So now I know I have room to lay my book more open flat. Now, if you're using, the reason I made mine this fat is because of the kind of paper I'm using. I'm using mixed media paper, and I put, I think, 4 pieces, and then they were folded in half, and it's very bulky paper. So
is that like 120 pound or?
I can't, let's see. You can buy this at Walmart. So it says, yep, 140 pounds, and you get 50 sheets in it. I thought it was pretty good paper.
Oh, it's watercolor. Yeah, that's great paper. Yep.
Yeah, and it's heavier than the mixed media B paper.
Mm-hmm.
I have some of that too. It's a little bit, the mixed media is a little thinner. So I take these down, and like I said, if you have a different kind of paper, like you're using a thinner paper or you're using computer paper, you might only want to leave 1/4 inch. But my paper, my signatures are so fat, and I haven't even done anything to them yet.
Yeah.
They're very fat.
Yeah.
So that's why I left a big gap. All right, so I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to flip these up. And I'm going to find the glue that I set aside.
And the glue you're using is?
PVA.
Okay.
Oops, sorry. It's from, is it Lineco? Yeah, Lineco. Not everybody does their glue like this, but for expedience, a credit card, actually a hotel key card, get it up so it sticks on the edges. I have problems with my stuff sticking on the edge because I make sure it's really good in the middle and then I forget about the edges. So it's not perfect, but you know, it is a cracker box. I'm going to do the spine. I could do them without taping it and flipping it up, but I think this is kind of an easy way. It may be awkward for some people. And, you know, everybody has their own style. I'm not saying this is the only way to do anything, for Pete's sake, because, like, you know,
well,
10,000 way to do stuff.
If they've never made a journal before, this is a starting place. And that's
This is
basically what we're showing is how you can create a journal.
a very basic journal.
Right.
This is very basic.
And then
So-
as you experience journal making and you want to branch out and do other things, there are all different types of journals and stitches and things that you can do.
And you develop your own style of how you glue or how you cover. It just depends on what you're into or what you feel is most comfortable.
Right. And so like Vickie is using this watercolor paper because it's a nice paper. She does some watercolor. It will work for mixed media also. But if what you do is mostly sketching or something like that, you may want to use some sketch paper or, whatever works for you.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of push this down. Now the next part will be kind of, it's all about preference. And I should have done this and I skipped a step. Well, I'm going to live with what I've done. All right, so because this paper is very thin, wear and tear on it will be excessive because of opening and closing. So if you go to Dollar Tree or you get an envelope in the mail from like Amazon or any of those kind of places, Tyvek makes a great way to prevent too much wear and tear on the opening and closing. So what I should have done was some of this Tyvek underneath these pieces right here, like take a piece like this and glue it on the other side. But I didn't do that. So I'm going to do it on the inside, and I don't think it really matters, but we'll
No,
try
I
it.
don't think it does. But there are other things that you can use too.
Yes, and I'll show you one other thing that I like better than, well, I like as much as Tyvek. Wait till you see it. All right, so I'm going to take this and lay it on top. And then I'm going to take the bone folder and go in between here and make my creases so you can see them, because that's what's going to help you open and close it without it cracking so much, is the fact that it's not pulling on the paper because you've already made a gully for it to go in there.
Right.
So it should open and close without much effort at all.
Yeah, it is opening and closing really well. And so Tyvek is Tyvek. It's the stuff that they wrap houses with. They use it in construction.
It's a great insulator. Yep. You see it all over the place on people's houses, man. They put that brand out there so you know exactly what your house has been wrapped up in. All right. So now
But we may have some people, international people, that don't quite understand what that is.
Oh yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this on here. Since I've already made the gullies here, then I can go ahead and add some glue here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what it looks like underneath because it's going to be covered up. So okay, and I'm going to show you guys another thing that I like that I do when I do Tyvek. And it was a gift. Where did it go? Here it is. They make this tape called book tape. It is the stuff that they put on boxes. And what makes it so strong, so durable, is it has a fiber inside it and it's crisscrossed. I don't know. Can you see it? There you go. You can see the white crisscrossing here. This is great for the books. So what I would do is I would take this. I would have to do 2 strips of it because this is really spread far apart. And you spritz it with water because it is sticky on the other side. And then you put this on the outside of the book like I should have done. And you also do it on the inside. So you can make a strip really long and it doesn't matter. Spritz it with the water. And then what you do is you'll take it and you'll wrap it around to the other side and finish it on the other side. So you have 2 layers protection for the bend of the spine. All right, so there's that. Take a while for the glue to dry. Okay, so I'm going to look for scissors. Here we go. And I don't need all this Tyvek on here, and I don't want to fold it up in my book. Like when I fold over, that's too much bulk. So I'm just kind of trim it. I just kind of want to trim it down a little bit because it's not necessary. I like fat books, but that's a little much. Yeah. All right. So I have watched so many videos on bookmaking that this is strictly up to you what you want to do. So let me preface this by saying that I have watched tons of these and I've seen 5,000 different ways people do this. So I'll show you how I do it. A ruler like this little 6-inch ruler is 3/4 of an inch wide. So usually what you will do is take yourself a little ruler like this. Again, you don't need the extra bulk. And I will just go down here. I'm not even going to do it with a pencil because I don't need it. It doesn't have to be precise. I'm just going to go down the edges and cut bulk off because, again, you don't want all this extra bulk. This one, let's see if I can get it. I might have to scoot it down a couple times. Get this out of the way. Slide it down. Where's the edge? There it is right there. Now on the bottom, I didn't leave enough room, so I don't need to trim anything off the bottom. So that's fine. All right, so we got it trimmed up a bit. The next thing I wanted to show you is a tool, and I'll show you all of them so you see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I want to show these, and I cannot for the life of me remember what they're called, but I found them on Amazon. And chipboard, as well as cereal boxes and all of that, comes in different thicknesses. So you have a lightweight, a medium, and a heavyweight. You don't want to have a lot of bulk in your corners when you fold it over. So they make brass ones, which I've yet to get a hold of, but I bought the plastic ones, and they come in different thicknesses. So when you lay it's a guide. I guess it's some kind of a guide. When you have thick board, there's a thick corner here. See how thick that is? As opposed to this one. And they have numbers on them that tell you what thickness they are. So I rubber band the big thick ones together because I will rarely use those. But the thinner ones I put together, and the thinnest one is mostly the one that I get the use out of. If you find the brass ones, it's a long brass. It almost looks like a ruler that I was just using, but it's brass and it has a little hiccup there. And you just put it over the edge and it shows you where to cut. So what I'm talking about is this fits over the edge. Scoot down better. And then you just cut the edge of the paper off like that. And it makes it not bulky in the corner, and it makes your corners nicer. Now, some people just take scissors and cut, but I found that I was making a major mistake when I cut. I would get so close to here that you would see the corner of the chipboard and couldn't get the pieces to come together. And so what I used to do to cheat is I would take these little corners when I cut them off, and I would glue them here so that if they didn't come together, you wouldn't tell.
Right.
You know, you got to find a place. You got to find a place to cheat when push comes to shove, and you're back against the corner. You got to be creative.
So we will find a link for those tools in case you're interested in them, and add that to the description.
Yeah. I think I can get the link off of my things from when I bought the little thingy. But I've seen other people, and I've done it myself, where they kind of cut it circular, or they'll cut so close that they can't get these corners to come together.
Right. And they want,
Believe me, I've done it a million times.
you want it to wrap so that it covers that corner so that you're not having exposed chipboard. So that's why people use those types of tools.
Yes.
But
yep. And so I couldn't get mine to cover together. So when I cut the corner off, I would just glue this and then pull them together and go, oh, look.
Yeah. And I've seen that done a lot too.
Yep.
I mean, it's not mandatory that you have a tool.
No, but it looks more together if you know, pull it together. All right, so this is our glitter. And the reason I use this is because of the tip, because I like the direction. I put the glue, butted right up against the chipboard, because I noticed in previous books that I would have a bubble right here because I didn't apply enough glue. So I just take the glue and then I just kind of down the side. Cover's still wet. See, ordinarily I would let this dry overnight and squeegee it more so it's kind of bubbled. It's a journal that I'll be messing up all year long, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so you do the opposite side. Just kind of put a little glue on here. You can squeegee it with a credit card or hotel key card. I want to make sure. There's the bone folder. There it is. So there's a crease right there where I didn't quite get it snug on here. Oh, no. And I tore it. Yet another cheating method.
Well, we all need those.
It's an art journal Band-Aid. I just want to make sure that it doesn't rip on the edge. All right, so that's that. I'm going to do these guys. This is where you get, people get a little crazy about their corners. You're going to have a little place right here where it comes off the edge here. So some people would take their fingernail and indent this. I kind of do that. I'll take it and then I roll this just a little bit between my fingers and make it come to an angle right here on the corner. And yes, I do bend this paper back. If there's a lot of it, I will bend it over. I take my glue and stick it on there. Sometimes there's not a lot, like, no, this is not a good example. Sometimes I come up a little bit short on the ends where you barely have enough to fold it over. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But sometimes if I cut the paper without the little guide, I don't have enough to kind of make my edges look nice. And that glue didn't stay down, but it will in a minute. A little mash of the bone folder. I did see somebody take their bone folder and whack the corner. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Do you know why? Do you know why they whack the corner like that?
No.
I have no idea either. And I was like, I don't get the point.
Well, unless
I'm
they're
sure
trying to flatten something, I can't imagine.
Possibly. Just kind of roll it over a little bit. Tuck it in. I want my corners to be nice and crisp. Granted, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, because if you're going to use it all year, you know, like if I was going to sell this in my Etsy store, this would not be what I sell. I put a little more effort into the things that I sell or give away than what I do for myself.
Well, and I get all painty and messy, so usually the outside of my journal is the last thing that I do.
Is it really?
Yeah. Well, because if I want to decorate it,
Uh-huh.
unless it's an in and out journal where I'm taking the pages out and working on them, I'm gonna mess up that cover sooner or later.
And see, I never thought about covering it later because I thought it would be more awkward to cover later.
Well, not necessarily cover. I'm talking about painting or applying
Oh,
other collage
okay.
material.
So there you go. Ordinarily, you wouldn't do all this at once. This needs time to dry on here where you can smooth it out, so you don't get all these wrinkles. And this is very thin paper. If you use some other kind of paper, I think you would not have all these wrinkles. Plus, I rushed it. So you don't want these wrinkles. That's not really a desired result. But because we're doing this in a compressed amount of time, and see, look, there you go. So you have plenty of room for expansion in here. This is a 2-inch. I measured it last night. It was 2 inches. Let me be sure I'm telling you the right information here. Yeah, it's 2 inches.
How many signatures do you get in a 2-inch book?
A lot, but not mine. Normal people get a lot. I don't. All right, so this next part, since you brought up signatures, let me show you this. This is a press that compresses fat paper down skinny. This is made of 2 IKEA cutting boards that I screwed down yesterday. And in preparation for today that I can't unscrew. I got it on here.
Screwed it down really tightly.
I did. I absolutely gave it what for. Because I want these things, because they were so bulky, that I wanted them to smush a little more. I don't know. Is smush an official art term?
I think it's a technical term.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. So
this is something that Vickie and her husband put together, which presses these papers, and I think it's a really awesome thing. Now you can buy these already made from somebody,
but it's more expensive.
Yeah, you're going to spend a lot of money on them.
Yeah. I think each one of these, what was it, Peg? They were $4 a piece.
I think so.
And then you have to buy the 2 screws, the this part, the wing nuts, and so that adds to the cost. But I think it was close to under $10 to make this. Now this does not fit 8 by 10. This is usually for a 5 by 7 or smaller because I work in smaller books. Right. So here's my signatures, and as you can see, those bad boys are fat. And it still didn't get them as flat as I wanted. So when you put something in here like this, because I was only trying to just do the corners, you put it in here, but then it tilts. Let me show you sideways. It tilts. So what you're going to have to do is find paper that's about the same thickness of what it is you're doing and stick it under there so that when you mash it, it mashes it flat equally. The pressure is equal. But this is part of another book for later. All right, so I'm going to take these guys out. And as you can see, it's still, I don't think I left it in there long enough. It's still got crinkles and it's pretty thick. So this is that B paper. And I put 1, 2, I have 4 pieces folded in half. Now, if I really wanted to spend a lot of time on this, I could do 2 pieces and do 6 lines on the spine. But since I'm basically a lazy bookmaker, I only wanted to do 3. So it's pretty fast. These will fit in here so they have room for expansion, which they're going to do if they have wet on them. They tend to swell up. So they'll be spaced out probably about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch apart. And then this will still fold up. You're going to have a lot of extra room left so that you can open the book up, and these will open also. These things are very tight. Maybe this was not the best choice of paper, but I thought the other stuff is too thin. What do you think, Peg?
Well, you know me, I like watercolor paper.
I do too, but man, Shevitz, this stuff is going to be a beast to sew in here. All right, so ordinarily you would cover all this mess up. I have a strip that when I do this, I glue it down the middle and make sure it's cut off a little bit above the top and a little bit above the bottom, because what you're going to do is you're going to glue it down and you're going to do this on it on both sides to make sure it's in the valley here so that when you open and close it, it works well. Then you're going to find some other kind of paper or whatever, and you're going to measure these spaces here so that your paper only goes up to right about there, maybe about 1/8 of an inch away from where your book opens. You don't want it to overlap because then it causes a crinkle. You know, it causes it to buckle or is a split. So what I do is I make a single sheet that covers up all of this, butted up to this line here, and as close to the top and the sides as I can get it. Sometimes they're even, sometimes they're not. And
that's what they refer to as end papers, correct?
Yes. Well, yes, they do. So I don't have enough of this paper to do this, to make the color all the way, and I don't want the brown on here. So what I would do is I would glue this down here and then take the other papers and glue them on top of this. So you see this little strip, and then you see the fullness of the other 2 sheets on either side of the spine. And I don't have any paper. Let me see. I have photocopied paper here. Do I have enough sheets of it? I do. Good. Okay. So we'll do it. All right. Let me cut with my little cutter here.
So explain to them the photocopy paper so they understand what that is.
Oh, okay. I carved a rubber stamp and then I stamped it in the pattern on here. Then I took the original and I scanned it into the computer, and then I printed these sheets off. These are not the originals. These are scanned photocopies of the original. I like this better than using the original because if you run out of paper, what are you going to do? You don't have anything to, you know, you're like this much short and you're like, oh, I've run out of paper. So that's why I like photocopying, because if I run out of paper, all I have to do is press print and then I have more paper.
Well, and you have a nice smooth paper that doesn't have a bunch of chunky stuff that's going to be bumpy that you're trying to work on.
Not only that, but if I want to do anything wet on top of this, the underprint is not going to smear.
Right.
So I like that too. These were done with distress oxides. So if I had gotten the original piece wet, all this would have been blurry.
Yep.
Because it reactivates with water. And so that's why I do the photocopies. All right. Now, I don't know how other people do this, but this is how I figured out. I figure out how big I need this to be. I take my sheet. I close it on my book. Boy, this is really wet. And I take a pencil. Where's the pencil? There's so much stuff on this desk. I have no idea where anything is. Where did it go? Well, doesn't matter. Just ballpoint pen. And I draw around my book. This is for people who don't like to measure.
That's me.
This is a cheater's way to do it. So what you're basically doing is you're getting the outside And then when you cut this paper, you're going to have to cut it in a little bit shorter than that pencil line, or the case, the pen line. And sometimes at the time, you'll find that these are not exactly the same, and you might have to trim down a little extra on your two pieces. So I want to do that as a warning that that could happen. So let's see. Let's get the cutter. And I try as best I can, because these papers are not exactly cut the same size. I line up my mark with the edge of where I think the blade's going to go. Sometimes if I'm being really precise, I will actually measure. But honestly, as much as I think measuring is really good, I still get it off. I still can't make it come out perfect.
Yeah, it's the old measured twice and cut once, right?
Oh, yes, it is. There we go. All right, so this is one on top of the other, and one will look better on it than the other. So this needs to be trimmed because, you know, I did it exactly butted up next to this, and I have a little bit of extra, and see, it's not cut exactly straight down the sides. So I'm going to need to trim it up a little bit. And this one will be the same. It doesn't exactly fit, which, you know, doesn't break my heart. All right. So because I'm going to do that, I'm not going to use that other piece of paper. I'm going to see if I can fit this one in here. Doesn't quite fit. So see, this is why you use photocopies. It's because you run off 4 pieces of paper instead of 2. I knew this was
Can you
going
hear
to
that
happen.
thunder out there?
Do what?
Can you hear that thunder out there?
No.
Oh, yeah, we're having a big storm.
No, I can't hear a thing.
Okay, good.
All I hear is myself rattling on. Okay. That's it. Get this. And I really want that pencil. Oh, it was here all along. Let's cut this down. See, if I'd had one piece of original nice paper, I could not do this.
Right.
So that is why I like photocopying. And you know what? I don't know if it was you or somebody else said, why don't you photocopy your stuff? I'm like, why would I do that? Well, here's the example of why you do that. Because you don't have enough paper. You didn't plan out very well, Vickie. All right, so I need to trim this off at the bottom. Maybe I did it this way. Yep, I did. Okay. That's still too wide. So I'm going to make it, need to trim just a hair off of it. And then take this and cut again. I think a good paper cutter is really important. Very important.
Yeah, I really like a guillotine cutter.
Yeah, because I don't have to replace the blade every time I cut something.
Yeah.
As much as I like the other cutters, the Fisker I have, I get tired of spending $8 for 2 new blades every time I cut chipboard or something that's heavy duty. It does not like heavy duty paper. All right, so there we go. There is my, yep, not too bad. See, that was guesstimate work. What do you think, Peg?
Looks good. I like that print.
Just thank you. I have a lime green one, but I figured it wouldn't show very well on the camera. All right, so I'm going to use the PVA this time. And again, this stuff is going to be very wrinkly because it has not had time to dry, and it really does need a couple hours, if not overnight, dry time. This is really rushing it. And I don't usually put together a journal in one day because I don't want my paper crinkly.
Right. But we appreciate you sharing your knowledge with everybody.
All right, so I can't. Oh my goodness. So let's scrape. a little bit down so I maybe hopefully won't have too many clips. And this is computer paper. So this is not the best quality paper, but it's very, let's put this in here as straight as we can try to do. There we go. I'm gonna take the other end of that glue thing. I'm gonna give it a little scrape. Then I'm going to take the bone folder and kind of see if I can find the valleys. There we go. And give them a little scrunch. If you do this in a rush and you don't let it dry and you don't do this valley thing, sometimes you will get wrinkles all along the valley. And if it doesn't matter to you, that's fine. Because I have books that have the crinkle, especially the ones when I was just learning how to do it. I didn't understand
Well, and it isn't just you. Sometimes you can go buy books and you'll see where there's a bubble or something underneath there where they didn't do a good job of bookbinding.
Yep.
So even the manufacturers have their problems.
Yeah, but I've seen somewhere where you buy a book where the corners don't even come together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, come on. I don't know. Are they done on machines?
Probably. It's probably all mechanized. I don't know. My brother worked for a bookbinder for a while.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I think that would be such a cool job.
Well, they did a
Let's see
lot
what
of
we got here.
what do they call it? Restoration stuff.
Restoration. Still, I like that meticulous kind of stuff. Although you can't tell us, but I do like doing stuff where it takes a little more time. Like I said, I let my stuff dry overnight before I start throwing other things at it. Like before we started recording, I took an extra sheet of this and I glued it on here on these little boards. These are excess chipboard from something else.
Right.
And I glued them on. See, I didn't do the inside. This won't be done till tomorrow. But I did at least cut the paper so I wouldn't run out of paper. And I did cut the paper. And then I saw somebody do this in order to keep from creasing it. You put some kind of scrap something over it if you're going to put a bull clip or some kind of a clip on it. So tomorrow or later tonight, I will glue on the inside of this. This is for a Coptic stitch book, but so there's no spine. So I'll glue this part on and let it dry for a couple more hours and put it underneath pressure, stacks a book or under the book press in order for it not to be bubbly and wrinkly. Plus,
well, another way that helps with that is to take those pieces, those individual pieces, and if you have a die cut machine, you can run it through the die cut machine and it'll flatten stuff.
But I cut a little more off of this so I put it on here, and I think I still have them too large. How's it look, Peg? See,
That looks so pretty.
Big. Doesn't look too big.
Well,
it's a lot of blueprint.
I'm trying to see the edge. You know, I'm on a small screen, so it looks good to me.
You see a little bit of the blue, or do you want to see a lot more?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Okay. Let me glue these down before I lose my courage.
All right.
All right. So let's stick this in here. It's a lot of glue. I do like PVA for big projects like this, but squirting art glitter glue out of that little thing over a large piece of paper is time consuming.
Yes.
There's a shortcut for everything. I'm going to find it. Not always a good thing, but it helps. It is better to go from the inside out so you can squeeze your glue out. See, and it's a little uneven right there. That's too
And
late.
it probably doesn't hurt to have a rag to mop up any excess glue.
It does, but I ran out of wet wipes. I haven't been to the store in a bit, so I have run out and I'm like rubbing my fingers together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I say this from experience because I'm an excess glue person, so I squish glue everywhere.
Oh, I spend a fortune on glue because I use too much. But I've had stuff not stay glued.
Yeah.
And so I'm really paranoid about it coming unglued in the middle of something. Probably don't want to glue over the paper.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't want to come unglued.
No, you don't. You do not want to come unglued.
No, do not come unglued.
It's not attractive. All right, so there's the inside. And oh my word, that's a lot of blue.
I love it.
Holy crow. Maybe I should have picked a different color.
No, it's gorgeous. And by the time you get your pages and things in there, you're not going to see that big field. So,
Ooh, I hope not. Ugh, that's a whole lot. All right, so I would put this under a lot of weight. I saw somebody who had a brick that was covered in fabric, like a red brick, and they laid bricks on their stuff. I thought, genius. What a genius idea.
good idea.
Yes.
Well, you know what I've got? I've got those big floor tiles that are like 18 by 18.
Holy crud, those are big.
Yeah, and they're heavy because they're ceramic.
All right, so there's my book with an extra crease in it. See, it's coming up on the edge. I didn't use enough glue.
Well, but you would have that weighted down and it would be
Oh,
drying.
yes, I would.
Night. Yeah.
Because it's very loosey-goosey and it
Yeah.
needs to dry. So while you know what, I'm gonna set this tape on top on the side where you can't see it. Then I'm going to come and whip on my little signatures here. I say little in a figurative way. Look at them. That's why I made my spine so big, because of this. All right, so I want to do the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. It is one of the easiest things to learn. And there's no perfect way to make it happen. You just have to find where you're most comfortable doing it. You can watch 1,000 YouTube videos and then you will see it done 1,000 different ways. Well, let's go try to put the pin in here. Put a pin in it. All right. So this is how I do mine. I need a piece of white paper. Let me just use this. All right, so ordinarily this would be a piece of scrap paper. I take my scrap paper and I make sure that it's pretty straight, and I fold it in half. Then because I'm doing 3, that's too much. You can't see the blue on there. Let me do it this way. Because I'm doing 3 signatures, I take it again and I fold it to the middle. See, I folded it to the middle, and then I'm going to do this one the exact same way. Now, I've seen other people that only fold one piece of paper one way and they poke the holes all the same. But this is also for the spine. All right, so I don't like measuring, so this is how I do it. And I can't remember who showed me how to do this, but I've known how to do this a long time. Because I'm doing 3-hole pamphlet stitch, this should be the same height as these guys, and it pretty much is. I got lucky. So this will be where the center hole is poked, and then the hole here and a hole here. So I need the top hole and the bottom hole. Now you can do it one of 2 ways. You can take this and fold it down to the center. Which means all your holes will be basically from here in, and they'll be evenly spaced because you fold it into thirds because you have 3. But I don't think that this is sturdy enough for the heavy weight paper I'm using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the line that I folded. This is the center. This is third. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold this again. I'm not measuring anything. This is for people who don't like to measure.
That's me.
All right. So now what I'm going to do is find that silly pencil. And I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm only using the ruler. Don't panic, people. I'm only using the ruler so I can see where the lines are, the folded paper. So there's the center. And then I'm moving, I'm skipping that other third I folded. I'm going up higher because I want my paper to be more secure in the book. Take this here. And then, wow, that's a long ruler. Oh, I had about 6 different rulers hanging underneath the table, and I put them in order, largest to small, so I can grab this one first, but I didn't do that. Then I'm going to take this and go down my sides, because when you're doing white on white, sometimes if you don't mark where everything is, you can't tell where to poke the holes. And I've had crooked books, believe me. I learned this the hard way. All right, so this is where your holes are going to go. This will be the top, the middle, the end. So this is signature 1, 2, 3. Then you go down to the middle, 1, 2, 3. It's the cross section of where your lines go together. Does that look okay?
Looks great.
All right. So the next part. Now, I know not everybody has something like this, but I bought this because I thought it looked so cool. And the reason I bought this is because it's small. And like I said, I usually do smaller books. So this is the perfect size. But the cool thing is it's open-ended. So if you have something that is taller, which this, there you go, this is a little bit, doesn't matter. It'll still work. So I have another one that's a larger cradle that I could use. All right, so I'm going to take this and fold it in half, because when you're poking the holes and you're just doing a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, the only one that you need to put in here is just so you can see the middle hole, because they're all going to be poked the same distance. This is your guide for sewing it onto the spine. I just get it all done at once. And everybody does it different. All right, so I want to make sure. Oh, another thing. When you do your papers for your book, you need to fold all of them that are going to be in the signature at the exact same time, because there's this thing called creep. And here's an example of creep. What has happened is I didn't quite make sure it was cut, and the inner pieces don't go in as far as this piece does. So their ends poke out, and they call that creep. See, this one, I did a much better job cutting. This one's better. This one's got a little unevenness here. All right. So if you're going to trim up your papers, you might want to do it now, because you're going to sew this in. I mean, you could cut it now, or you can wait till after you poke the holes. It doesn't matter. But don't wait till you get ready to sew. You've already sewn in and go, oh, it sticks out. I have cut my cover trying to trim the paper and got it crooked. And then I cut. It was a mess. It was a mess. All right, so I'm going to fold this in half. I'm going to stick it up here and butt it up to the head. And I'm going to use my pokey tool. This is a pokey tool that is metal. I've had, oh, it's blurry. Sorry. Adjust. Come on. Why is it so blurry? Come on, camera. There we go. I have been using an awl, and I read in a book that using a wood awl or an awl for leather is not the proper tool to use on a book, because their tips flare out. You want a hole that's going to go straight through and not tear up your paper. So it's the same diameter all the way through. The awls that are the wood awls, they start out skinny. And if you look, the metal kind of expands out further. It's not straight up and down. This is straight up and down. Okay, so it's in the cradle. Just going to take it. Can you see it? Yep, there you go. And you just poke a hole. And you can hear it snap more times than not. All right, so because this paper's so thick, I'm going to go through and make sure that it goes through the other side. Because right now, the only hole I can see is the middle hole. You can do this with a phone book. You can also find a cradle that's a collapsible cradle on Instructables.com where it folds down into pieces and lays flat somewhere. This does not lay flat. All right, so that's one signature. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little mark up here. This is the top of my signature, and that's signature number 1. And then I'm going to lay it down like this so I can put them in proper order. Because sometimes if your stuff is not spaced out exactly evenly, you can turn your paper around and then you go to sew it in your book and you're like, wait. One of these holes is not like the others. The lineup is not the same. That's because you turned it a different direction and you didn't keep them all lined up together. I don't know if anybody else does it, but I'm some in there. I'm like, why are my holes crooked? That's because I took them and I flipped them around. This is number 2. Put a pile it there. This goes in the middle. I'll show you another way I saw somebody else do this, and I was just mesmerized by the way she did it. I don't think I can do it that way, but that's the way she does hers, and I was so impressed. I might try it someday, but not on camera. I don't think making mistakes like that on camera is really a nice thing.
Oh, why not? I make all kinds of mistakes on camera.
So I laugh at all the dumb stuff I do. Because like if you don't laugh, you're gonna start crying. You're gonna be like, oh no, I just wasted all this paper.
Well, and
so this is
you know, when you're first starting out, you're gonna make all the mistakes you can, you know.
And then some.
Yeah.
And then you think you fixed them all, and then you make new ones the next time.
Yep.
All right, so I have 1, 2, and 3. They are ready to go. And here's my book that's curling up because it's too wet. All right, so I'm going to take this. And I am going to, where'd the blue tape go? Right here. Okay. I'm going to take this, I'm going to lay it down in here. In the middle. And I'm going to tape it. After I put it on my shirt.
Centering that on the middle spot of the spine, right?
Yes, because I found that if I don't do that or I don't tape it down, I'll have stuff that goes diagonal. And it's a mess. And then you just, you hate yourself for not being a little more careful. Let's get it off of there. Okay, take that down there. And you can do it as far up in there as you want, because what you're going to concentrate is on these. So, oops. Okay, so you can do this on a piece of foam core board. You can do this on, was that fun foam?
Yep.
Yeah. You can do it on lots of surfaces. Now, the one thing I don't like about doing this way, and I'll show you how to fix it, is that when you poke through this way, whatever you're poking through comes out the other side and flares. And I don't like the holes in the book to look messy. So what I'm going to do is just give it a light little poke. I'm not really actually trying to ram it through the board.
So could you do it from the opposite side?
Yes. you can. So I'm going to take this off. And hopefully, oh, you can't see on the other side. I didn't poke it hard enough. So now I got to return. Oh, well, I can. Okay, so here we go. So there's this one. That's number 3. This is number 2. And there's number 1. And there's the center, dead center. Let me poke these so I can see them. See, they look nice on the inside because you poked all the paper out. Can you see that's got the texture there?
Right.
I don't like the way that looks. So I go back later and I poke it the opposite direction. And sometimes it will come through to the inside. I don't care that this looks ugly here. What I care about is it doesn't look ugly on my spine. There's another way you can fix it. And I saw somebody do it the other day. They just take their bone folder and they just kind of mash it down. Well, if I do that, then I can't see where the hole is. So for me, that was not a solution. And even now, trying to poke it back through again, it doesn't always work. I do try though. So I just don't like all those holes poking out on the outside of the book. There's a million ways you can cover it up. But since this is a beginner thing, we're going to get that complicated. All right, so I got my holes poked. I think you can see the top ones. I'm trying to look in the camera here. Well, because the print is so busy. I don't know if you can see it. So there, this is the first set. The second set. All right, so let's talk about what you're going to sew with. I have several different kinds of thread that I like to use. And when I made my first book, I used wax dental floss, which works really well. It holds up really well. It's probably not the most professional looking thing to use, but it does work. So this is what I vacillate between. This is from Line Co. This is waxed thread. The only color I've seen it in from them is this ecru or white color. Wait, sorry, you can't see that. This is a linen thread, and it is heavier than this one is. And if I'm going to use heavy paper, I need string. Put this. Can I see that? Can you see it there better? There we go. I want string that's going to be up for the task. Another kind of material you can use is number 5 DMC cotton thread. I like it because it comes in colors. It's not waxed, and you can make it waxed by dragging it through this right here, this little wax round thing. You can drag it through here and make it waxy if you think it's not going to go well through the paper. So those are the 3 kinds of, see, there's the ecru 5 cotton. I have a black. I need more colors, but that's what I got for now. All right, so Bowie needles. There are lots of different needles you can use for this. There are pointy needles, and there's blunted needles, there's straight needles, and there are these lethal weapons here. I don't like these. I have poked myself a million times with these. The only time that I usually use these, if I do Coptic, because it's hard to get in between the layers of the signatures, I will use these. If I'm going to do a 3-hole binding, I am not using one of those things. That's just nuts. All right, so they make, this one's not blunted. They make book binding needles that are blunted. This one is, that are blunted on the ends, where you don't poke yourself. See, there's a sharp one, and then there's the blunted. You can use whatever kind of needle you like. Depends on how much blood you want to draw, I guess. And the eye of the needle is important. You need to be able to get this thick stuff through the eye of the needle. So you don't want a little teeny sewing thread like this with a honking piece of thread like that, because then you spend all your time, and I know this is gross, you spend all your time spitting on it and mashing it and trying to cram it through the little hole. That's not a good look.
They do make a needle that's called a big eye needle. And when you use it, you push down on the end of the needle and it opens up the eye so that you can put your thread through it.
Oh, I should have that.
Yeah.
All right. These I bought. These are leather sewing needles that I bought.
I'm so sorry.
Kit. This came in a leather kit, and these are big eye because people thread leather through them.
Mm-hmm.
You can use that for this kind of stuff, but the downside is you're poking a big old hole in your paper. And if you're using computer paper, you don't want to do this, and you don't want big, thick thread, depending on how many pieces of paper you have in your signature. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you use thicker paper and you know your paper is going to expand, you use bigger thread. If you're just using paper in to like take notes or do sketching, you can use thinner thread with a smaller needle.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I remember somebody telling me that.
Well, the thing is you want to make sure that your thread is not so thin that it's going to cut your paper.
No, and I've done that too. I have actually done a Coptic stitch where I was pulling on thread and it ripped the paper down and ripped the hole. So then I had to put masking tape over, cellophane tape over it to hide the fact that I ripped from the hole down to the end of the paper. I'm a bit overzealous at times. You wouldn't know that about me, would you, Peg?
Right. I wasn't going to say a thing. I'm just saying.
So, if you're doing something really thick, then these might be good needles to use. But I'm just going to use this one. And this one is pointy on the edge, and, you can bleed if you get careless. I don't usually use a thimble, but lately I've been having to use them because I've made a poor choice on my needle, and I can't get it through the hole. All right. So what kind of thread should we use? This is that's the inside of this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of these is a short. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got a hole poked in it, but where does it belong? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not that one. Well, I took a signature out by accident. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I guess we had too many. Just set it aside. Such an exact science, isn't it?
Right.
All right, so you can sew from the back to the front to the back, and actually, because these are spaced out so equally and the paper has no direction, doesn't matter to me. I could start with number 1 here or number 1 here. It doesn't matter, but sometimes you can sew your signatures in backwards, especially if you've already finished your signatures and you have like letters and numbers and words that go up. I have sewn it upside down and was so mad that I wasn't paying attention. I was so excited I got it done, and I looked and went, oh, I can't believe I just did that. All right. I do not do the 4 times length times this, that, and the other thing. I just go like this. Okay, there's lots of thread there. That looks great. And I see these people doing it down their arms and measuring. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't have time for that. All right, this is the waxed. I think this is waxed linen. And that's a big old eye on this thing. I better get it through there. Oh. All right. No, not now. So this is the 3-hole pamphlet stitch because you have 3 holes. So the first hole, okay, you can do one of 2 ways. You can start here in the middle if you're not going to tie something on the outside, or you're not going to do something funky on the outside to the things here. Isn't that the way it goes? You can tie on the outside, or you can tie your knot on the inside.
Yep.
I like my knots on the inside. So that's what we're going to show you. All right. So it goes in the middle. No knot. And you pull. Now, some people are really good about holding it while they're doing all the other stuff. I am not that good. So I take a clip because I'm an overzealous person. I will pull this thing right out and go on sewing. At the end, I'm like, hey, where's the... Too late. So I'm going to clip it over here. So I know where that little booger is. Then since this is my first signature, I go in this way into the middle hole because middle hole. And I'm going to pull. So you don't have to jerk it. And then you go in the end hole. And sometimes it's hard to find the hole in your signature. So you have to flip it up and kind of guesstimate where that silly hole is. There is the hole. And you poke it through and you pull. You don't want it completely tight, but you don't want it loosey-goosey. Then you go in the top through this in the hole that matches up or corresponds with the signature. And you pull again. Then you go in here because this is where you're going to tie your knot is on the inside. Now, like I said, some people will start the opposite direction so their knot ends up on the outside. And this is tricky sometimes too, because sometimes you split your thread. See, I can see where the hole is on the outside, but I cannot find my hole. There it is, right there. All right, so you see how the thread is on this side? You want your thread to be on this side, on this second go around here, because what you're gonna just slip it underneath, and then you're gonna pull, and you want to make sure these are nice and tight and straight. Unclip this, and you're going to tie a square knot so that the knot is tied around this middle section, because this basically is one long line of thread, and you want to make sure that you tie it so it stays good. So top over bottom, top to the bottom, pull. And this wax stuff is pretty good for staying tied. Then the second part, you go the opposite direction. You know, when we tie our shoes, we go like this. But when you do the other knot, and trim.
So I was always taught,
and then
right
you're going to do this
over right.
Yep. And see, I didn't quite get it to the end here. It should be a little more centered. But the thing is, I have tons of room in here to expand. So I like that part because my stuff tends to grow. This is number 2, and I know this is the top, and I want to make sure I see the number 1, and then put the number 2 in there. And again, should I show them the other way where the knot's on the outside?
You can if you want to.
Okay. So if you want your knot on the outside and you don't like having, you don't like having the knot in the middle, which kind of bulks up skinny paper. This stuff, it won't matter because this paper's so fat. But if you want the knot on the other side, you have to start on the outside of the book. In the center, pull, and you want to give yourself enough here so that you can make yourself, I'm going to put it over here, you can make yourself a knot on the outside. A lot of people like to leave it long and stringy so they can tie stuff on there. I don't usually tend to do mine that way, but you should see other ways. All right, so then I'm going to go through the middle. Maybe. There we go. And pull. And then I go through the bottom. Pull. And then I got to look for the middle hole. And I don't know about you, Peg, but a couple times I've done this and put it through this hole here.
Uh-oh.
And then And then I go to sew the next signature. I went, oh, and so I had to tear it out and start all over again. Wasn't very bright. Not the best move I ever made. And then you pull through here. You're going to flip it over. And you're going to stretch it all the way down here in the middle. Go through the book. And then since this is so thick, I've got to try to figure out where the hole is. There we go. See, this is why I keep pliers. It's because this paper is really thick. I don't know if I can get it through there. Let's see. Come on. There we go. All right. So if you want to tie your knot on the outside, you still got to do it one more time. And see, I got both my threads on the same side. So I just want to tuck this under there and make sure the thread's on the opposite side. Then you're going to make sure it's nice and taut. Just tie your knot. This is going to be a little tricky because one of these is shorter than the other. Let's see if I can do it. Back. Like I said, when you use the wax thread, I like it better sometimes than the cotton stuff because I think the knots hold much better.
They do. That wax just keeps everything in place.
It's a good grip. That's why I kind of like using the dental floss.
Yeah.
It was flat enough. It didn't cause bulk in my book, and it was waxed and easy to use. All right, so I still have a little bit left.
Well, and the kind that my dentist would give me
Is it peppermint?
my teeth done was not the kind that they recommended. So I thought, well, great, I can use it in my books.
You know what I did one time? I used the peppermint stuff, and I went to thread the needle, and I went, oh, that tastes good.
Oh.
It had a flavor, and then it smelled for a while.
Yeah, I bet.
It did. It smelled pretty good. All right, so since I'm down to the dregs here, I'm not going to see if I can not mess it up. All right, go back through the hole. And the thing about 3-hole pamphlet stitch is you can put 15 signatures and you do them all the same way. Just remember to number them, make them all go the same direction. Don't make the same silly mistakes I've made, although you will, because it happens. You get distracted. You're watching TV while you're sewing, and then all of a sudden it's upside down. All right, so I'm going to pull that one more time in here. Let's pull this up. I get it in there. Well, the needle went through here. We just got to get it back in the same hole. And sometimes what will happen is you will create another hole. You will miss the outside hole coming in, and you'll end up with another hole over here. Just tie the knot, call it a day. It still works. It's not the desired result, but it still works. All right, so I'm going to pull. See, and I think this one is even worse than the other one. See, this is what happens when you don't make sure everything is measured properly. I got the 2 and the 1. They're all the same. Okay. Thought I had it upside down. But because they're pretty much the same distance and everything, it doesn't matter. But some of them, if you have like more up here than you do at the bottom, the space, and you turn it around, it doesn't sew in properly. It's not lined up the way it's supposed to be. Have you ever done that?
Oh, yes.
It's terrible to admit all these silly things you've done, but you know, I think it helps people when I like watching blogs where everything's perfect, but let's face it, it doesn't always come out perfect. And I wonder how many takes they do before they get it to look that beautiful. All right, all 3 signatures in on a very fat book.
Well, I think some of them have done a lot of books over time.
Yeah. All right, so this is, and the thing I put an extra bend in my book that didn't actually need to be there. I'm okay with it. So if you don't want the extra valley in there, you can take another strip of board and shore it up there so you're only folding it one way. But my books get alligator mouth, and I like sometimes that I can expand it out on both sides and make it even wider.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's not a common thing, but you know, sometimes it works that way. See, and I need to trim a little up top. Anyway, so there's a 3-hole peplet stitch quickie journal, although I don't know how quick it was, but there it is, all fat and happy.
Well, I think that's awesome. I think you've done a great job of explaining the process in an easy enough way that people should give it a try. You know, the point is, if you've never done this before, you need to try it and see if you enjoy the process. If you don't, go buy a journal, you know. But
I'm sweating. It's
are
hot.
you really? Oh my. So
No, my mom had to be worked out.
couple of things. Vickie was talking about the paper piercer being one size, and the reason is you don't want to widen your hole. This is what she's talking about for an awl. You see how it tapers down here. This is an awl, and I like this for like if you're only going through the very end, you can use the very end, but I like this for heavier duty things because I have broken paper piercers trying to go through things like leather. So you want to make sure that if you're going through something really heavy duty, that your paper piercer can take what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
She was also
kind of skinny.
Go ahead, Vickie.
But it's very sharp. Well, it's very sharp. That's the reason I like this. The other ones, a true awl, I find is a little more blunt than this is. Do you find that to be one's a little sharper than the other?
No, I think they're both.
No.
Both of mine are pretty sharp.
Are they both? Are they sharp? See, I busted the tip off of mine, off an awl I had with the wood on it, and I busted the tip off of it.
Yeah, I think both of mine are about the same sharpness.
But this is how it works.
Anyway,
I like
and
the
then
grip
bone
on
folders. There's lots.
Handle ones, but
there's lots of different bone folders out there too. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I like the ones that had the square end on them. Is that what you've got?
This
you got one with the square end on.
This one has a square end so that you can crease the paper really well.
Oh, I like that kind.
Yeah.
Mine's rounded.
And this one is actually Teflon, so when you're going over your paper and you're creasing, it doesn't leave the mark of the bone folder, because sometimes the plastic ones will leave a mark on your paper. The Teflon is better for working on paper. And then cradles, you know, she was showing you the cradle that she purchased. But if you don't have that, she was also saying how you could work in a book and just put it into the ditch in a book.
Yes.
So, and then threads, there are lots of options. I'm sorry?
Yeah, a lot of people use phone books. But I live in a town where the phone book is like that thick. So,
well, and they're not readily available anymore. But sometimes you have an old catalog or something that's still pretty thick that, you know, has something that, So, and then, you know, you don't have to have special cutters or anything like that. You can use a ruler and a knife. You can, you know, use what you have. You don't have to have all specialty tools. So, I hope you give this a try. I want, Vickie is Messy Table Studio. So if you're wanting to find her on Etsy, you can look at Messy Table Studio, or on Instagram or on YouTube. They're all Messy Table Studio. Anything you want to add there, Vickie?
Well, I can't see you right now, but
Oh,
there's a reason why it's called Messy Table Studio. Did you see my desk? It's horrific. It looks really bad. No, the light's terrible. You can't. There you go. It's piled up to the gill.
uh,
It's really busy over here.
so I've got another person lined up for next month. And we will be featuring members of Art Joy Sharing. So if you really want your day in the sun, let me know. Because I've got a list of things that we need to go over. So thank you very much, Vickie. This has been very informative, and you are very knowledgeable in this area. So
Thank you.
we
I had
appreciate
fun.
your help.
I had fun. I'm going to spend this next year in 2023 doing different type. I want to learn more things. I know how to do Coptic, and I know how to do, a couple of these other little stitches, but I want to try to make a series
Yeah.
of doing different types of book bindings because it's time to expand.
Well, and I hope you videotape all of that. I hope you create a playlist that we can share with the people in Art Joy Sharing, so that if they really want to try all these different things, they can just follow along with you and do all these wonderful different types of journals, because I know Vickie enjoys very much learning all these different stitches and things. So
I enjoy making the books more than I enjoy putting stuff in them.
yeah, that's not me.
You make the perfect couple.
We do. So thanks again, and keep an eye out for next month.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Bye, guys.